Today, we must embrace the inexorable logic of globalization, that everything from the strength of our economy to the safety of our cities to the health of our people depends on events not only within our borders but half a world away.
It pained us all to know about starvation and disease in various parts of the world. President Clinton also was very interested in bridging this global divide for very realistic reasons, which is that when there is poverty and disease in countries in the world, then their people might be so desperate that their governments became unstable.
We cannot accept a world in which part of humanity lives on the cutting edge of a new economy and the rest live on the bare edge of survival. I think we have to do our part to change that with expanded trade, expanded aid, and the expansion of freedom.
The crisis in Mexico is another example where President Clinton said reestablishing stability was what we have to do, and let's do it. Mexico was likely to have a crisis of great duration and real severity, and that can have all kinds of adverse impacts on us, illegal immigration, narcotics, as well as economic impacts. The United States provided $20 billion of assistance to Mexico through a legislated program in conjunction with the IMF. Within 7 or 8 months of the beginning of our program, stability had been reestablished in Mexico.
Today, an economic crisis anywhere can affect economies everywhere.
In the Mexican crisis, our fear was there might be contagion, that is to say, that the providers of credit and investment to the other developing countries might become nervous and pull back their investment and extension of credit, and you might have financial instabilities. Well, in Asia, we had the contagion. It started in Thailand in 1997, and by the time you got through 1998, there had been a host of Asian countries involved. We probably came pretty close to a true global financial crisis. Had the international community, led by the United States and the IMF, not reacted the way it did, the G7, working with the leadership of the International Monetary Fund, provided a reform program in conjunction with financial assistance.
President Clinton was always a bit ahead of his time in recognizing the inevitability of global integration. Even before we went through the Asian financial crisis, he spoke often of the fact that we could not be an island unto ourselves, that we had to care about what was happening in Africa and other poor parts of the world. And so he truly sought to expand all of our initiatives in terms of educational opportunity, in terms of microloans, in terms of AIDS, and in terms of economic development.
Our policy is clear. No nation can recover if it does not reform itself. But when nations are willing to undertake serious economic reform, we should help them do it.
The heavily indebted poor country, the HIPC as it's known, was an initiative to allow the poorest countries, especially if they reform their economies, to be able to dig themselves out of a very bad economic state and be able to provide for their own people.
President Clinton went to an IMF World Bank meeting and made an unexpected announcement that the United States would forgive 100% of its bilateral debt to poor countries. Once he did this, other countries followed suit.
Of course, change this profound is both liberating and threatening to people. But there's no turning back. And our open, creative society stands to benefit more than any other if we understand and act on the realities of interdependence. We have to be at the center of every vital global network as a good neighbor and a good partner. We have to recognize that we cannot build our future without helping others to build theirs.